All right, let's jump right into one of the absolute cornerstones of our field, something from Section B of the task list that, let's be real, gets mixed up all the time. Positive versus negative reinforcement. Now, it might sound basic, but trust me, getting this distinction crystal clear is non-negotiable for the BCBA exam and, more importantly, for your actual clinical work. So today, we are going to break it all down, we're going to bust some big myths, and I promise, by the end of this, you'll feel way more confident. You ready? Let's do this.
Okay, let's tackle the biggest misconception right out of the gate. I mean, you hear the word negative, and your brain immediately goes to bad, unpleasant, something you want to avoid, right? It is completely understandable to think that negative reinforcement is just some technical jargon for punishment. But here's the thing. In the world of ABA, we have to kind of rewire our brains. Negative has zero to do with it being bad or good. It's a totally different concept, and we're about to see exactly what it means.
So before we can even start talking about what makes them different, we have to talk about what makes them the same. There's one single golden rule that both positive and negative reinforcement must follow. If you get this one thing down, everything else just clicks into place.
Okay, look at the back half of this definition, resulting in an increase in the future frequency of that behavior. That right there, that's the whole game. See, reinforcement isn't about what we think will work or what we hope will happen. It is defined 100% by its effect. The only question that matters is, did the behavior happen more often in the future?
This right here, this is your North Star. It's your litmus test. It is the very first question you have to ask yourself when you're looking at any scenario on the exam or in the clinic. Find the behavior and then ask, did the frequency go up? Did it get stronger? Is it happening more? If the answer is anything but a resounding yes, then it is not, I repeat, not reinforcement. Full stop. It doesn't matter what else happened. You always start by looking at the effect on the behavior. All right, now that we've got our golden rule locked and loaded, let's talk about the first type, positive reinforcement. Now, this is usually the one that feels a little more intuitive, you know? It's what most people think of when they hear the word reward. The key word here is simple, add. Just think of a plus sign. A behavior happens, and then something is added to the environment right after. It could be anything, verbal praise, a sticker, a snack, access to a favorite toy. As long as that addition makes the behavior more likely to happen again, it's positive reinforcement. That's why we call it SR+. We're adding something. So let's look at a classic clinical example in that ABC format we all know and love. So the antecedent, a teacher holds up a flashcard and asks the question. The behavior, the client says, apple. Perfect. The consequence, the teacher adds praise, saying, great job. And what's the future effect? The client starts getting more and more of those flashcard questions right. A stimulus was added, the behavior increased. Boom. That's positive reinforcement in action. All right, now it's time to dive into the one that trips everyone up. But I promise you, if you can just shift your perspective a little, it makes perfect sense. The trick is to stop thinking about good versus bad and start thinking about simple math, specifically subtraction. So this time, our big keyword is remove. Think of a minus sign. A behavior happens and something is subtracted or taken away from the environment. Now, here's the crucial part. The thing being removed is something the person doesn't like. It's unpleasant or aversive. This is SR-. We're subtracting something. So why on earth would the behavior increase? Well, because it works. It provides relief. The behavior is the key that lets the person either escape an unpleasant situation that's already happening or avoid it from happening in the first place. That feeling of, phew, that's over, is incredibly powerful, and that's what reinforces the behavior. Let's make this real. So, the antecedent, a super loud, annoying alarm starts blaring. The behavior, the client reaches over and presses a button. The consequence? Sweet silence. The horrible, aversive noise is removed. So what happens next time? You can bet the client is going to press that button even faster in the future. The button pressing behavior increased because it took away something unpleasant. Okay, we've looked at them one by one. Now for the main event. Let's put them right next to each other. This is really where it's all going to lock into place for you. This chart says it all. Look at that top row, the mechanism. This is where they're polar opposites. Positive adds something, negative removes something. Got it? Okay, now look at the bottom row, the outcome. It's identical. In both cases, the future behavior increases. That shared outcome is the very reason they are both, say it with me, reinforcement. Seriously, if you remember just one thing from our entire chat today, let it be this. Forget good and bad. It's just math. Positive means you're adding something, like a plus sign. Negative means you're subtracting something, like a minus sign. And in both equations, the result is that the behavior goes up. Okay, so that's the theory. But how is this going to show up on the BCBA exam? They're not just going to give you a definition. They're going to wrap it up in a story, a clinical scenario, and you're going to have to be a detective and pull it apart. So let's talk about the clues to look for. Think of these words as signals, as little flashing lights in the exam question. First, scan for those effect words. If you see increases, strengthens, maintains, more likely, ding, 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 you know you're in reinforcement land. Then you hunt for the mechanism words. Do you see words like added, presented, or given? That's pointing you to positive. Or do you see removed, terminated, escaped? That's screaming negative. All right, pop quiz. Here is a totally classic exam-style question. I'm going to read it, and I want you to just pause and think. But don't just guess an answer. Use our process. What is the very first question you need to ask yourself?
Let's walk through it. Step 1, our golden rule. What happened to the behavior of hand flapping? The scenario explicitly says it increased. Right there, you know it's reinforcement. You can immediately cross out any punishment answer choices. Okay, step 2, the mechanism. What happened right after the hand flapping? The child was removed from the noisy cafeteria. An aversive stimulus was subtracted. So, an increase in behavior plus the removal of a stimulus equals negative reinforcement. See? That two-step process makes it almost impossible to get wrong.
Okay, this is so much more than just a tricky exam topic. Let's pull this out of the academic world and into our real jobs. Understanding this distinction is absolutely fundamental to creating interventions that are not only effective, but also ethical. This is what we do every single day. I mean, think about it. When you're doing an FBA, you're basically asking, what is the function of this behavior? Is the client doing this to get something, attention, a toy, sensory input? That's likely maintained by positive reinforcement. Or are they doing it to get away from something, a difficult task, a loud room? That's escape, which is negative reinforcement. Your entire treatment plan depends on getting that right. If a child is engaging in a behavior to escape demands, the ethical and effective path isn't to just block it, it's to teach them a better way to get that need met, like teaching them to ask for a break. And look, if you still need a little extra motivation to really nail this stuff down, just look at that number, 14%. That is the chunk of your exam that is dedicated to Domain B, concepts and principles. That is a huge slice of the pie. Mastering these core concepts is not optional if you want to pass. So we have covered a ton of ground today. We've defined our terms, we've walked through examples, we've even prepped for the exam. But this entire complex topic really boils down to one simple, incredibly powerful question that you have to train yourself to ask first every single time. What is that question?
That's it. What happened to the behavior? Always start there. Did it increase or did it decrease? Just by answering that one question, you immediately cut your potential answer choices in half and put yourself on the right path. It is the single most important tool you have for dissecting any behavioral scenario. Master that question and you will master the concept of reinforcement. Thanks for listening. Keep up the hard work. You're going to crush it.